And
Hey,
we
hey,
are
hey.
live. Everybody, happy Tuesday morning. It's an early Tuesday morning here on Drummers Education Connection. We got a very special guest today, Francis Ruiz from the band Buckcherry and 40 Cycle Hum. Francis, how are you today,
Yeah,
buddy?
yeah, yeah. All good. Wake up earlier than I normally am, I have to admit.
The other
Usually
day,
usually the only time I see this time of the morning is when I'm still up, so
right, right.
uh yeah.
Well,
So
when I called you the other day and I told you, yeah, we go live at 8 o'clock, I kind of heard the air go out of your lungs. You're like, oh,
I didn't quite comprehend 8 o'clock.
eight
I don't,
o'clock. You mean at
yeah,
night?
what do you mean?
Anyway, everybody, welcome to Drummers Education Connection. Before we get going here, we're going to do what we always do and throw it around the room. Good things inside of drumming, outside of drumming. Chip, what do you got going on that's good, brother?
Man, you know what my good thing is right now?
What's
Annika
up?
Niles nailing the fills in Tom Sawyer with
Right,
Rush
right.
live, killing it, dude. She was just, oh man, she was going at it, man. It was cool, man. I really enjoyed that. It made me weep a little because you could hear the crowd just roar after the fills were over in approval. And it was
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
she got anointed by Neil. It was really cool, man.
I
Yeah, I was down the rabbit hole last night. I didn't get a whole lot of sleep last night because I knew I had to wake up early. But the other reason was because I was watching all the videos of exactly what you were just talking about, and it was
Yeah.
pretty awesome.
Dude, she's crushing it. And before they even started the tour, I was thinking to myself, the pressure she must be under is, I mean, is incredible. And
Oh
so yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
imagine if she choked on that fill.
Oh, okay, yeah, right. Opening
You know,
night,
forget
right,
it.
right.
It's like I saw an interview with Neil that he was saying that he actually is nervous about nailing that every single night, and when he actually does it perfectly, he's very proud of himself for that night. So
Yeah,
it's even a challenge for him. Probably anxious anticipation going into that he has he can't screw it up either. So
yeah, yeah.
for somebody
He,
stepping into his shoes, it's got to be 1,000 times that much pressure.
well, you know what?
Oh, absolutely. The entire Rush world.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, and that's kind of my good thing too, is watching watching all that video stuff because of her, because she is killing it and just crushing it. And it's one of those things where you got to figure Neil Peart was considered to be the best in the world at what he did,
hmm, yeah,
and Rush is like a lot of bands like that. They're a religion, and oh
right.
my God, so she's really killing it. Anyway, what do you got going on that's good, Francis? You got anything you want to throw out there? What's happening?
Well, the best thing going on right now is the fact that we just finished a 5 week tour, and I am home with my wife and my two kitties. So
Right on.
that's it's hard to top that. So,
That's awesome, man.
um, um, and we had a great tour, and we I'm going to be home for only about another week, and then I'm going to fly to Nashville and play our first show with 40 Cycle Hum, which is another band that I'm playing with, and
Right on.
so there's a lot of excitement and anticipation surrounding that too. So, and
Well, talk
then
to us about that. Jump right into
yeah,
that. Who is in
Hey,
40
I
Cycle
didn't
Hum? Talk about that band.
yeah,
oh,
Francis, didn't he release a new single called Seven Stitches recently?
there's Seven Stitches, the latest single, which is actually already it's gone to radio. They're going to radio with this one,
Oops, I'm
and
behind.
it's all good, man. With social media now, if you wait half a day to get on social media, you're already 10 days behind on
Right.
everybody's posts. So that's just the way it goes. But no, 40 Cycle Hum, yeah, we have a new single called Remember the Days, and that one's going to radio. It's on TLZ Zoid, which is the label through Virgin Music, and that's the label also that put out the Billy Morrison Ozzy Osbourne single that went to number one, and he's working with Solierna and Billy Morrison and Nuno Betancourt on another single called, I think, Becoming. Anyway, great position to be in, but they're going to radio with that. 40 Cycle Hum is myself on drums, and singer's name is Brandon Mitchell. And we've got Mark Zavon, the guitar player from who previously played with Kill Devil Hill. And that's the band that used to have Vinny Appice and
Right.
Rex Brown from, in it. And also Matt Snell, who was the original bass player from Five Finger Death Punch. He was on I believe, the first two records, and did
Nice.
all the touring and stuff with them. So we're getting together, and we have a full album that's going to be released soon. I think we're on single number 4 already. There's 7 Stitches, Remember the Days, Finding Home, and another one called Rise Up. So, and those are all available on Spotify and all the streaming platforms right now, so everybody can take a look. But we have our first show coming out in Nashville on the 20th, and a lot of excitement going on around that. And of course, I still am, in Buckcherry, and Buckcherry still has a lot of touring to go. We've been, as anybody knows, Buckcherry tours, relentlessly. We're always on the
Yeah.
road. We're always working.
Yeah.
And, for the first time, as soon as we finish this year's worth of touring, which is going to be in October, early October, then I'm going to have some downtime and time off. So that's when 40 Cycle Hum can really have a chance to go out there and play some shows and do that. And it's just a different, a different side of my playing. It's still hard rock, it's a little on the heavier side,
Okay.
and
Okay.
little more, more of the heavier modern side, I guess, if you will. It's going to active rock radio, and it's great because it gives me a chance to spread my wings a little bit more
Mhm.
with my playing. I get to dive deeper into that, all the influences that I had, guys like Dean Castronovo and Scott Travis, and all those guys, Mickey D, and a little a little uh a little more chops, a little more notes in what I'm playing, a little more double bass, all that good stuff.
So
Right on,
so
man.
you were obviously involved in the songwriting as well, I would assume.
Yeah, the 40 Cycle Hum was a band that I was in um a while back, and we actually released an album in 2006. So it goes way back, and you know the music business takes people different directions, and but now it kind of came full circle, and we just kind of all found each other again through music. And it was actually an algorithm, because we had this music that we that never got released, and
Okay.
that we thought, man, people need to hear this stuff. And so the singer and I actually started moving, and we met Danny from the TLG, the label group. And he was like, this stuff's great. He was, should we put this stuff out? And I said, yeah, absolutely, people need to hear this stuff. And so through that, it it caught into the algorithms with Spotify, and Mark, our guitar player, heard it, and it was suggested to him. And so he reached out to us, and
That's
he's like,
great.
wow, it's great to see, this stuff, getting to see the light of day. And he's like,
Right.
let's get together and jam. And we all talked, and then we brought Matt in, because Matt wasn't part of the band way back then, because he was doing Five Finger Death Punch. And
Mhm.
actually, 40 Cycle Hum and Five Finger Death Punch did shows together, um, at the beginning when they were coming up, and so we just all kind of came together, and it's perfect timing. And so we'll see what happens with that. But either way,
Right on.
the bottom line is, we're doing it because we love it, and it's just going to be fun to go out there and play some shows, and finally let some people hear this. And Matt went and laid down all the some bass tracks, some killer bass tracks. We're uh, finally getting it mixed now um, from Chris Collis, who
Okay.
who he's worked with Korn and a bunch of other bands. So it's sonically, it's just insane, and it's going to be really good. So.
Yeah, right on, Francis. You know, Kathleen Kelly's watching. Thanks, Kathleen.
Oh, hey,
She says
Kathleen.
she cannot wait to see the next Buckcherry show. Huge fan here. So
Yes, I'm a huge fan of hers.
Awesome.
Kathleen and Jeff are salt of the earth, man.
Yes,
Yeah, they are.
They are. And you know,
Absolutely.
I've been using their Kelly shoe since way back. You know, I used to tech for the Scorpions.
Right.
I used to tech for James Kotak for 11 years actually, and I think James has got one of the first prototypes, I guess maybe if you will, for the Kelly shoe, and we immediately was like, oh, this is great. You know, we put it in his thing, and I've been using him ever since. You know, so I got
Francis. Let's do a favor for anybody new or younger drummers who may be listening. Explain to everybody what a Kelly shoe is.
A Kelly shoe is an internal shock mount miking system that for your kick drums and for all your toms actually, and including the flat 91. You know, you can mount them in versus, you know, there are other internal mic mounting systems, but they're rigid systems. You know, and the Kelly shoe, it's, you know, it's called Kelly shoe because it's kind of shaped like a horseshoe, you know, the original one. And it's basically strapped to the internal screws of the lugs, you know, with these thick rubber band, and it's a shock mount, which is great. And the cool thing about that is, you know, I've worked with a lot of the rigid systems, and just in transportation, transporting overnight, you always had to pull out the drum heads and readjust the mic and retighten everything because they're rigid, so they're getting loose as you go down the road. But with the shock mount system, it just bounces around, and you know, you pull out your drum and it's exactly where it's supposed to be. So that's
the mic is suspended in the drum.
Suspended. Yep.
Yeah.
I have them in every single one of my drums. And
nice.
Same thing. We do, you know, across the country, 100 shows a year. And every once in a while, I'll have to open up the drum and do something to the mic. But 9 times out of 10, it's not the shoe thing. It's like something happened with the mic or the mic clip inside the shoe. You know, the shoe's
right.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah.
No, it's genius, you know, and it really solves a lot of problems. You know, I don't know how many times, you know, when you're putting muffling and all the other stuff, and especially if you're using 2 mics in the kick drum, you know, I always have the 91. It's called the flats. And that floats right there because that thing is always going, you know, falling on the side of whatever muffling you have against the head or whatever. So that just keeps it right where it needs to be, you know.
I just realized I totally blew it because I have some Kelly shoes in my drums right over here, but I've got a couple in the garage. If I'd have known it was going to be a commercial for the shoe, I'd have brought them in and shown them. I'm kidding, Jeff and Kathleen.
Jeff and Kelly, get at us. Get at us.
You guys are awesome. You guys are the best.
That's awesome. Hey, thanks for watching.
You know what? I want to throw this at you because I've got a couple of questions about it. One of them you know already. You were a tech for a long time. So talk us through that. You went from behind the drum kit to, okay, I'm going to be on behind the kit and be the tech guy. And now you're back on the kit again. Tell us how that transition happened and how that worked out for you.
Well, I mean, I've always been a player, you know,
right.
That was my dream and life goal coming up. And so I've always been a player, and I actually, you know, I actually played with, I did a record with CC DeVille in 99, 2000. It's a band called Samantha 7. And I also played as a touring drummer with Great White for about a year around the same time. And you know, after that, we were signed to John Clauder's label, which was Portrait Records through Sony at that time. But you know, as the business goes, you know, the label ended up folding, and all of a sudden I found myself without a gig. So I was picking up little gigs here and there. And but in the process, James Kotak, who I was already friends with, um, he ended up calling me one day, and he said, "Dude," he said, my drum tech, who I think was the drum tech since like the Herman Rarebell days. You know,
Wow.
he was an older guy, but he'd been with the band for way before James, and but he was an older guy. He was having some health issues, and he basically wasn't fit to tour. You know, and
Yeah.
they were just starting a tour in Las Vegas, actually, I think at MGM. And he called me in a panic, and he said, "Dude," he goes, "what are you doing right now?" And I said, "Well, I'm playing a gig actually in Vegas for the radio station's official, pre-party, after show party for your Scorpions tour." And and that band, it was an AC/DC cover band. It was with John Corabi was in it, um, and Robbie Crane
I remember
from
that
Rat.
band, dude. I
Yeah,
remember
it's
that
called
band.
yeah, it was called Back in Black, which I think there's probably by now 10 million
Yeah.
cover bands called Black and Black. But and yeah, Kerry Kelly, who was in Alice Cooper at that time too, was playing at Robbie Crane from Rat at that point, and we were playing just for the radio station's party for this thing. But he called me, and he said, "What are you doing right now?" And he explained the situation, and he said, "I know you're a player, but would you consider coming and being my drum tech? I don't know who else to call. I mean, like we start today." And I said, "Dude," I said, I said, "Well, I'm committed to like a couple more shows with these guys." I said, "If you can maintain, manage by yourself for the next two shows, I'll send my gear home and I'll fly out and I'll meet you." And that's what I did. And I didn't even have to think about it because
Wow.
well, I mean, it was the Scorpions, and it was
Right.
touring the world with one of my favorite bands and with one of my friends. And
Yeah.
so it was a, and I didn't have a solid gig at that point, so I did that. And when you get into the tech world, especially working for a band like the Scorpions, that's a full-time thing. They never stop touring either. And it paid great. I was seeing the world, and I was traveling in the way the Scorpions travel,
Yeah.
not like most other bands travel, or even new bands, staying in all the greatest hotels, and so it was awesome. And not only that, but we all the bands that were support bands for us were all my favorite bands too. We had bands like Whitesnake and Tesla and Deep Purple, and everybody was coming out supporting the Scorpions. So I got to tour with, on that level with all those bands, and it was great. So once you get into that kind of situation, it's really kind of hard um to not continue playing, because I still continued playing. And that album that I told you about, that 40 cycle hum, released in 2006, that happened during a time when I was still touring with the Scorpions. But what happened was I was able to facilitate paying for the studio time, for the rehearsal time, for
Yeah.
the all these stuff, because I was working and putting it into that. And the guys were patient enough for me to, I'd say, "Okay, I have to leave again," which is kind of a drag, because they're sitting at home chomping at the bit wanting to go play. But it's hard, I can't, to turn down the Scorpions, to say, "Okay, I'm going to stay home for, from this tour, so I could
Right.
go play, and hopefully we get 20 people into the show."
Yeah. Right.
For no,
Right.
and for no money,
Right.
and
Right.
so it's once you get into that kind of scene, it is hard to go back to the playing side, because it has to make sense. And in the meantime, you get more responsibilities. You buy a home, you have a mortgage now, this and that,
You
financial
got your kids.
responsibilities.
Yeah.
Well, I got my two furry kids. But
Yeah.
for a lot of other people, yeah, they have kids. Um,
I'm with you. I've got a zoo around here.
Yeah,
No
no,
cats in zoo.
it's nice.
Bart has
No,
a horse.
yeah, no, I'm like our mutual dear friend Adam Parsons. You know, with
Oh
the
yeah.
way he is with his cat Bella, and I just love my cats. It's like I don't know what I'd do without them. The
Did you
one's
see it? Did you see
crawling around here somewhere.
today's Bella's birthday? And he told me, he goes, I'm going to take the day off and spend it with Bella. I'm like, that's badass, dude.
Yeah, and Bella got a drum. Bella got a drum kit for her birthday.
Dude,
And,
Bella,
and
have you been
yeah,
to his? Bella has a drum set. She has a drum
yeah,
set.
yeah,
That's her.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's insane. She
It's
probably
so
has
cool.
more drums than I do. You know.
She probably does.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen Adam. I've seen Adam's. I haven't had the pleasure of going to Adam's place. I've been to his old place when he was like in an industrial park, but the new room, you know, it's been years, and I need to get out that way sometime, and it's insane. Anybody that's been there is just like this place is ridiculous.
Well,
There's
we have
more drums in there than a drum store, you know.
it's true. You and I, when we talked the other day, Dusty Watson, he with Nashville
Yeah, yeah,
Pussy.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I teched for him that night at the whiskey. We
Okay.
had that conversation.
Yeah,
He's the guy that introduced me to Adam, and he
yeah,
just told me, he goes, yeah, I got this friend of mine. He's got a warehouse full of drums. So I'm thinking like I'm going to go over there and it's like, just going to be a warehouse full of dirty old drums or something. And I went to his place, I'm like, holy cow, man! And he has a room just dedicated to snare drums. It's phenomenal. It's
yeah.
really cool, man.
It's almost overload. I even have a nice collection of snare drums here, and it's hard for me to pick which one I want to take out on the road.
Yeah.
But they're too nice that I almost don't want to take them out. But I can't imagine with Adam. But he gets to sit there and just tinker with them and play with them and do whatever he wants. But no,
Hey,
I need
Francis,
I need to get out there.
I've
Right.
got a question for you. You're on the road with Scorpions and you're teching for the Scorpions.
Yep.
At sound check, do you ever get on the drums and really go for it?
Actually, with the Scorpions, the crew are all very amazing players, and it's been like that. There's Ingo, who is Matthias's guitar tech, actually plays during the show too.
Oh,
He
okay.
actually gets up on stage and he plays, and I know that he takes part in the studio also. Peter Kirkman, who is Rudolph's guitar tech, is also a very accomplished player who is, I believe, played on a number of their albums as well. So the Scorpions are the type of band that show up like an hour before they go on stage. And so they're not there for any of the sound checks or any of that other stuff. It was always up to the crew to do all the sound checks, dial everything in, and make sure that everything was ready. All they had to do was show up, put the ears in, and go on stage. So we did the sound checks. It was
Yeah.
we called ourselves, and they still do, the Scroopians.
The
Scorpions.
Scorpions.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love
And
that, man.
yeah,
I love that.
but no, we had to learn the songs. We did the full sound check. We had to play.
Wow.
We had to play like our, the people that we were working for. And honestly, like Ingo, sometimes I would hear him playing, and I thought Matthias was in the room because he just plays so he can emulate Matthias's sound very similar. And I would play as close as I could to James, and the same thing for the entire crew. Our bass player is also, the bass tech, Malta, is also a very accomplished musician and keyboard player and stuff like that too. So it was nice having actually a crew that were actually really good players, and we would do everything. So yes, we got to get up there, and but we didn't goof off and start overdoing it. We just did, with the Germans, they're very professional, very regimented. They stick to the script, and we got up there, did our thing, and there was not a whole lot of goofing off. It's just was
Right on.
professional
Very,
show. So
very
So
good.
I've got another question real quick. Your career has been all over the place and all kinds of amazing drummers, and one of them listed was Paul Bostaff at Slayer at the time.
yeah.
Can you tell us a really cool Paul Bostaff story? Anything memorable that stood out for you?
Well, the coolest thing about Paul is, well, Paul himself. He's a really awesome dude. If you've never met him, he's a really really great guy, really down to earth. But I was working with Paul, and Paul and I had met years and years before I ever started working with him. Is when we were on the Metal Masters tour, which was Testament, Motorhead, Heaven and Hell, and Judas Priest.
Wow.
At that
Nice.
time, Paul was playing with Testament, and he and I was drum teching for Mickey D with Motorhead, and Paul and I, we just instantly hit it off, and we started talking drums. We were just every day we'd see each other. Hey, what's going on? And we start talking about snare drums, start talking about gear, all the stuff. So we just really clicked from the beginning, and then years later, um, we crossed paths again. And I was teching for Charlie Benante actually at that point, and Anthrax was going out opening for Slayer on Slayer's the beginning of their farewell tour, and from there, Paul asked me if I would come and work for him, um, and that's what happened, and it was just great. It was just uh, awesome working with him. But the cool thing about Paul, other than his playing and his who he is as a human being, is that when I got called to, and this kind of goes back to the original question, how do you get back to the playing side of things? I ended up just getting a call from Stevie D from Buckcherry, guitar player, and he called, and I saw, and he left a message, and I looked at it, and I told my wife, I said, hey, Stevie D from Buckcherry just called me. She said, well, call him back. And for some reason, just in my head, I knew. I said, he's gonna ask me to play.
Right
He's gonna.
on.
I for some reason, I just kind of, that was my first thought. And and she says, well, call him. And so I called, and sure enough, he asked if I would be interested in joining the band. And I was a fan of the band because I really do love the band, because they're one of the bands that actually involves so many different styles of music. If you think
Right.
about it, some of the stuff is straight punk. Some of the stuff is almost metal. There's a lot of stuff that's really poppy. There's stuff that's more country vibe. There's the ballads. So it's a very dynamic catalog that of music that these guys have, and it really lets you get in there and just you know uh, experience all the different styles that you can play. And that's something that was always really really attractive to me, is to be able to do. But back to your question, when I got the call from Stevie, the first thing I did is I went to Paul, and I said, because we still had like a year or so left of touring before their final tour was going to be done, and that's that plaque right there, the beginning.
Right on.
Yeah, yeah, um,
That's cool.
yeah. So I went to Paul, and I said, hey, Paul, I said, I have an opportunity that just you know fell in my lap, and I said, I wanted to talk to you first about it because I'm working with you, and I just, professional courtesy, I want you to tell me what to do. Basically, you know what I mean. I honor my commitments,
You
and
have
really it's
to. You have
it,
to.
so I told Paul, he said, yeah, what is it? And I said, well, Buckcherry called and asked if I would be interested in joining the band. And without hesitation, Paul jumped up, and, well, he actually jumped up, but without hesitation, Paul was like, dude, yeah, of course. He was like, you have to play. He said,
Nice.
you should be playing. And he said, you need to be playing instead of working for me. He said, absolutely, you have to do this. And to get that reaction from somebody like Paul is pretty amazing, because it's shows the kind of person he is. But he was extremely supportive, and he didn't put himself or any kind of ego first and say, "Oh no, dude, you're working for me. I need you here." And he was
Right.
actually absolutely supportive, which was amazing. And then he cut to immediately. All right, what do you want to use for gear? And so he's like, do you want to play Yamaha? And I was like, yes, of course I want to play Yamaha. I've been a Yamaha guy for forever, since even before James Kotak. James Kotak was a Yamaha guy, and
Right.
I've had a relationship with Yamaha ever since then. I my uncle, who was my first inspiration, and drum mentor, uh, really instilled Yamaha drums into me, because he came from the school of David Garibaldi and Dave
Nice.
Weckl. And so
Nice.
he turned me on to, all that stuff, the Yellow Jackets and Billy Cobham, and so, Omar Hakim, and all those guys were the things that he filled my head with. And he was always a Yamaha fan. And so, and then I worked for Tommy Aldridge, who was also a Yamaha guy, if not the poster rock drummer of Yamaha, and then Paul Bostaff also too, which has some amazing, beautiful Yamaha kits. And so that, Pisces cymbals. But Paul was such a champion in being excited for me to do this and helping me get started. In fact, the first couple shows that I played with Buckcherry, I didn't have a kit yet to use. Um, and we were doing the shows in LA, and Slayer's storage was in LA, and he was like, dude, you know where the storage is, go in there, get whatever you need. And so
Wow.
That's awesome.
so I played on Paul Bostaff's kits, uh all his equipment for the first few shows that I ever did with Buckcherry. So that was cool. That's Paul in a nutshell. He's
I I
he's great.
love that. And I didn't mean to interrupt you there. I just have to interject this though. I think that what you're saying about him speaks volumes for who he is and who you
Mhm,
are, because you said, I honor my commitments.
mhm.
And this guy's like, dude, you got to do it. He knows what kind of player you
Yeah,
are. He knows who you are. And I think a true friend wants you to succeed. A friend doesn't want to, your friends don't want to keep you like squished down.
Yeah,
They
real
want to
friends
see you
lift you
shine.
up.
Yeah, they don't.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. And I find that a lot for the most part, in the drumming community. You get
yeah,
you get those randos that are highly competitive, and they, if they see somebody else get a better gig, they're upset about it or whatever. But for the most part, I think drummers really, because we know what we have gone through to try to even play gigs,
right.
from the
That's what
get-go,
this whole
humping
thing
all
is
the gear.
about.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We're the guys that always had to have the van. We're the guys that had the most gear. We're the guys that had to get there first, stay last,
yeah,
Yeah.
carry everybody else's carry everybody else's gear, um, and then get shoved to the back with no lights, and then get bent when it comes to writing credits on albums. So
right.
Yeah.
I think because of that, we have like just a brotherhood from the get-go. Anybody who's been through that.
Yeah,
So,
You
speaking
know,
of brotherhood, I want to take a moment and thank Fred Fisher from the Drummergy podcast is watching. Pablo Visco said, "Good morning, Francis." Mike
Pablo.
good
Kirchner
morning.
said, "Morning, guys." And Brian Lovins had a question, Francis.
There we
He
go.
said,
Okay.
"Can you share some of your techniques for tuning for a hard rock metal band artist?"
Hard rock metal band. Well, that could be two different things. I know that a lot of metal bands now try to tune their drums a little higher because they need more of the articulation. Even drummers that are playing a lot of these blast beats and real fast rolls, like Joey Jordison or like Chris Adler, was doing. They're all using 13-inch snare drums, you know, because they get a little more of that articulation and a little more of that crack. Versus hard rock might want a deeper, fatter snare, tone to it too. So it really depends on the genre of music. But I mean, ultimately, um, it's whatever your ears like, you know,
Right.
and one tuned drum set is going to sound different depending on who's playing that kit, because every drummer plays differently. They hit differently. The sticks that you use are going to make a difference. If you're using and wood sticks have a timbre to it. If you could get two sticks and they sound different on a snare drum just because the wood is different densities. So
Right.
so it really is just a matter of what you like. If you want to hear the articulation, then what I always do with tuning, and I think it works just across the board, is I always just tune the drum to itself.
Yep.
The drum knows where it wants to live, and
I always say drums has its own happy space.
it does. It does.
Yeah.
And if you're forcing it into a different tuning, then sometimes you're going to choke the drum. It's just not going to sound right. And tune the drum to where the drum is sounds the best.
Right.
And
The drum's
there's
happy place. Yeah.
yeah, and there's so many different techniques for that. You can tune the resonant head a little bit tighter than the top head, or some people tune them the same. It's just really it's just really up to what your ears want to hear.
Yeah. Kelly said it's so personal and variable.
Yeah, it really is. And and feel is the other thing too. If you're trying to play really fast, you don't want a bunch of loose heads,
Right.
because sometimes you don't get the rebound that you would get if you're trying to go around really fast. If you're just playing Phil Rudd beats, I mean, you could have those things just to get the wrinkles out, and it's just going to be nice big fat drums, and that's
Right.
perfectly great for that style. So without knowing exactly what you're playing and band sounds like, just make the drum sound the best that it wants to sound, wherever it lives.
That's fantastic advice.
Yeah.
Okay, we're kind of talking a lot of tech stuff, and I'm going to get around to the playing stuff in just a minute. But you
right.
already mentioned Tommy, and I told you before the show started, I got to ask the question. There's a
Yeah.
story about when you teched for Tommy Aldridge that I've heard from multiple people, because I'm a huge Tommy fan. About you set the drum set up, and he's doing sound check. He's like, something's not right, and goes through this whole thing. Tell the story, please.
Yeah, and I want to preface this by saying Tommy is one guy
Disclaimer.
that can be as particular and want things to be a certain way because he deserves it. He absolutely deserves it.
He's royalty, man.
He is. I'm a Tommy Aldridge disciple for sure. And I owe a lot of my playing style to him. It's like I cut my teeth on a lot of his stuff. The Speak of the Devil album. The live Ozzy
incredible album.
Killer record, man.
Forget it. Yeah, that's instilled in my brain.
Right.
Forever. So, but no, I was lucky and fortunate to tech for Tommy, which it is pretty incredible because as a drummer, you get a free drum clinic sitting right behind him every single night,
Right.
2 feet away. And you can
Right.
see every little thing, every little nuance, see how his feet are on the pedals, see everything, from how how he is on stage, off stage, preparing to play, during the show, routines, that sort of thing. So, but that particular story, one day, and with Tommy's kit, everything, like everything had to be flat. Like the floor toms had to be flat. I would put a spirit level on them just to make sure that they were perfectly flat. All the stands, spirit level, hi-hat stand, spirit level, everything, cymbals, perfectly flat. So toms had a slight tilt, snare drum, flat, but he's been playing that setup, and those instruments have been in the same place for ages,
Right.
and so his muscle memory is so keen that that even if things are slightly off, he can feel it, and which goes to the story. There's one day that Tommy would come up in his khaki shorts, and he for sound check, and he asked me to place a towel on his vinyl drum throne, so he wouldn't get his shorts sweaty, for sound check, and so I would oblige. But this one particular day, they gave me a towel that was big, basically. So I was like, if I put it on, it was going to drag on the floor, and he'll trip on it. So I just folded it in half, and I didn't want to cut the thing in half, but I just folded it in half and put it on the seat. And he comes in, he sits down, and the first thing Tommy does too, he'll go through his bag of sticks, or he did back then, and he'll pick up all the sticks and he'll twirl the sticks, and literally just by twirling them, he can tell if he wants to play them because of the weight. You can tell all the different weight differences. I think now they actually put them on a scale and put the weights actually on the sticks, and then make pairs with different weights. And there's some, he's literally separated like bricks of sticks and said, here, get rid of these. I won't play these. I was like, wow, okay. And so he's doing that. He's spinning these sticks. All right, cool. And he starts playing, start doing a couple of little things. And in his head, he just stops and he starts looking at his kit, and he starts
Something's different.
checking it. Yeah, something's not right. And he's looking at it. Everything looks fine. And so he starts to play again too, and he stops. He's just perplexed, and you can see it in his eyes, and he's shaking his head. And he doesn't understand. So, did you put a level on all this stuff? I was like, yeah, no, it's absolutely perfectly level. Everything. He starts playing again, and he just couldn't figure it out. He stands up and he's looking, doing this, looking to make sure that the floor tom is, where it's supposed to be, up to the kick drum. And then he sits down, tries to play again, the same thing. And then he finally stands back and he's trying to do this. And then he sees, and he comes up and he pulls the towel. He says, "You doubled the towel over." And I was like, yeah, it was too long. He says, "No, don't do that." He said it was making his wrist go from this to this, or no, from this to this a little bit, because now the snare was about a millimeter too low than it normally is, and I was like, okay, done, noted, and that's really how keen he is to where everything is, and the feel, and
that's incredible.
And I was just like, whoa, like, okay, that's somebody that's been doing it for a very, very, very long time and is just honed in. I imagine, if you're a NASCAR driver, you can tell if there's a bolt loose somewhere, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But that's Tommy for you. But
Tommy Aldridge is arguably one of the biggest double bass innovators in the industry.
Right.
I've been playing for over 40 years, and I still struggle with his live version of The Wizard with Ozzy.
Yeah,
it's just
right.
Incredible double bass work.
Yeah. I love that song. Yeah.
One of my favorites of his was Pat Travers. Boom, boom, out go, let's do it. Just killer, man. He's total royalty. And I've heard that story so many times. And when I got you on the show, I was like, I got to ask him. I have to hear it from Francis, because I'd heard it from other people. And that's really cool, man. That's a great story.
Fred Fisher said that's like the princess feeling the grain of rice under the mattress.
Princess in the pea, right?
Yeah. No, he
awesome.
really was. He was really keen. I mean, there'd be drum heads that would be brand new drum heads. We'd put them on and would have to swap them out because it just wasn't. Every now and again you get one of them heads that's just is a little dead. Doesn't happen with Evans.
Yeah.
But just saying. But we'd have to swap those out, and there was this one time he kept telling me, he says, "Man, my kick drums sound different." He says, "Are you tuning them the same?" Because I would spend the beginning of my day tuning his kick drums to making them sound as identical as I possibly could. And we put him there, and he was like, "No, man, the left one always sounds better." He says, "What are you doing different?" And I said, "Well, it's and we the thing is," I said, "Okay, just stay there. Let's try to swap them." And I swapped them, and he realized, oh, the left one still sounds better. And I said, yeah, but it's different kick drums. And that's the thing too, is you're never going to make them sound identical, because the ambient resonance that you're getting from everything else, the cymbals, the floor toms, the bottom of the heads are resonating when you're hitting this kick drum. They're not doing it when you're hitting this kick drum.
Right.
You're hearing different things that are around the drum. And so they're always going to sound differently. Not only that, your right kick drum or your primary kick drum, if you're a lefty, is going to wear out a little faster because you're playing that one more. So the heads are going to stretch unevenly. They might start out sounding identical, but they're eventually going to change.
Right.
And so, there was a lot of really cool things, and I have to say that I'm besides watching Tommy play every single night, it was a great boot camp, I guess you can say, into teching, because if you can work with Tommy and understand exactly why he's particular in the ways that he is, it's really sets you up, to be able to, you can work for anybody after that.
Right.
That's cool.
It's really cool.
It's cool that you not only got to do that, but I'm always a big believer in everything you do. You want it to be a learning experience. Like, I mean, I've been playing my whole life, and every gig I'm like, oh, do this, don't do that. And as you said, noted,
Right.
And I think that that's the way life is. So that's really cool that you look at it that way. It's very, very insightful. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I try to do that with everything, even my playing. I'm one of those guys, and I describe it like that watches videos, as many videos as I can of the show, and I don't watch them in a vanity way or an ego way. I watch them the way a boxer would review a video of his boxing match to see,
or NFL for game tapes,
NFL for game tapes, exactly, where you messed up, what you could have done better, and I wanted to make sure that when I'm playing something, it's coming out the way I intend it to sound, because sometimes we're going off doing something that we think is really cool, and we're the only ones who can hear it, because it gets muddied up in the mix or whatever, and you're not going to hear every ghost note. If you're in a rock band, a loud rock band, you're not going to hear every ghost note that everybody's playing. And sometimes people might rely or think that those notes are coming out, but then when you're listening to out front, they're missing. And then all of a sudden there's a hole. It's like, okay, you got to realize, it's not sounding the way it's sounding to me in my in-ears, because I could hear every little nuance.
Right.
And so I review that stuff. I try to make it sound tight. I could see if I'm yeah, I mean, just everything, if I'm, um, not articulating something the way that I want it to be, I'll make changes
Right.
in that too.
Right.
Like pickup notes on a kick drum,
Right.
there's like the song Crazy Bitch that we
Mhm.
have, it has the pickup note. It's but
Yep.
that pickup note will get lost. And all of a sudden it sounds like dun, 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 dun. The whole feel is the pickup note, you you know, and that's what gives it that groove. And
So
and
if it's
so
getting lost, let
yeah,
me ask, if it's getting lost in there, I mean, what do you do to make it not get lost? You play it louder, play it harder? Do you play it on a
yeah,
double
I
treble? What do you
really
do?
try to
You just
emphasize
lay
that
into it.
that quiet note.
Yeah.
And really it's kind of it's kind of a mind screw, because your dynamics now sort of have to go a little bit out the window, because
Mhm.
you're pushing this note that, you know it sounds clunky when you're doing it. Du- da- and but out front it sounds right. So making those little slight adjustments, I think, make kind of a difference. At least to me. I want it to sound the best that it can sound.
Oh,
And
yeah.
yeah.
I had a conversation yesterday with our guest that's coming on in 2 weeks, and he'd just gotten off the road, and he was out for a walk, like, on his workout, and he goes, "Yeah, I'm
Hmm.
listening to the board, recording from last night, just double checking everything and
Yeah.
stuff." And I think that's what we do, if
Yeah.
you're out there playing, and totally love what you said. It's not a vanity thing. It's okay, where can I sharpen the knife a little bit?
Yeah.
And I want to circle back around to something you also said, Francis, and that is that, as drummers, there's a brotherhood, sisterhood thing. Like, we want to see each other succeed, and we want to succeed ourselves. And no matter what we're doing, whether we're teching, we're playing a gig, whatever. So we do that. We always kind of
Hmm.
sharpen that knife. What would be something that you would say to young drummers out there, or not even an age thing, but somebody who wants to be in a band, somebody that wants to get
Right.
out there and work? How can they sharpen themselves so that they can get to that level to be in a band, to because there's so much more than just your playing that goes into it,
Yeah. Well, I think, we know that there's no substitute for experience.
right?
But um, you know, young drummers today have resources that we never had. And
Agreed.
it's pretty incredible. And there are drummers now that are eclipsing, you know drummers that have been playing their entire lives, just because they have those resources. As far as technique goes, it's like we
Mhm.
we didn't have social media to that was printing right, left, right, right, left, left, on the screen,
Right.
slowing it down for us to kind of sit there and play along with. I remember going to the music store, when I was a kid. I'd go with my uncle, and I had, a couple bucks in my pocket, and I needed new drumsticks, because my sticks, were about the size of a baseball bat, with gray duct tape, trying to hold these things together. And I needed new sticks, and so I could not afford the Vinnie Colaiuta instructional videotape that was playing on the TV screen, monitors in the
Right.
drum store. So instead, I would sit there and just, like, watch it and try to absorb as much as I could, and then go home. And by the time I got home, it's like, yeah, you trying to remember one thing that he did, and it's just like, it's just not the same as what the resources that drummers have today. And I know I said young drummers, but we too have those same resources, and I
Correct.
try to actually, um, tap into those resources, and try to improve my skills too. And I don't think you could ever stop learning. I saw another
Very
interview
true.
with Neil Peart, that was saying that even with Rush, he incorporated a new style of playing, where he was starting to play traditional grip, and he was changing, where the drums were, so he can have more of a flow feeling.
That's when
And
he was studying with Gruber. and he was
Yeah,
studying
yeah,
Moeller. Yeah. Yep.
exactly.
Yeah.
And even Rush was ready to do a record, and he said no. He goes, I can't do this until I finish this process, And so he had to delay going back with the band for like another 6 months until he finished the process.
Oh,
And
that's interesting.
and that's
Yeah.
Neil Peart,
Yeah. Yeah.
still learning and trying to change his technique, or improve his technique, or add different flavor or voices to what he's doing. And so I think if you lose that kind of hunger for it, and that excitement for actually learning, and you'll just become stagnant, that's no
Yeah.
fun. And then after that comes, when you're playing live, you're just going through the motions, because
Yeah.
you're doing stuff that isn't challenging at all. And so um for young drummers, I would just say, you have all the resources, use them. you know Play to a click.
Yeah.
It's imperative to play to a
Hey,
click now.
hey,
Yes.
Francis, I just want to let you know that Dusty Watson's watching, and he
Hey,
said,
Dusty.
Francis, your history and knowledge is off the charts, not to mention your top shelf playing. Great to hear your stories.
Ah, that's awesome. It was such a pleasure to tour with Dusty, and yeah, it was really cool. I mean, he's a tremendous player too, and his resume is quite incredible as well. It was a very fun tour to be able to tour and together, and I hope we get to do it again. Absolutely.
Dusty's salt of the earth, man.
Yeah,
I
we're all gonna have to meet up at Adam Parsons' place and have a full
I'm
geek out.
I'm down, man. Let's do it. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I called Adam. I guess it was on Saturday, and I hear this voice. Hello. I'm like, this isn't Adam. And it was Dusty. And Adam was doing something. He had a Dusty mic.
Oh, nice.
I want to circle back around to what you said and just kind of echo what you said. I totally agree with you. I remember, you remember West Coast Drums down in Costa Mesa? It was
I don't think I
years
ever
ago.
went there. No.
Okay. I think it was The Anatomy of a Drum Solo, Neil Peart's video.
Oh,
And
yeah.
And he was talking about studying with this guy, Freddie Gruber. And I was like, wow, okay.
Yeah.
And this is like well into the Rush career. And he's studying with Freddie Gruber. Well, then 6 months later, I'm back, in a music store, and here's Dave Weckl talking about studying with Freddie Gruber. And I'm thinking, well, if Neil Peart and Weckl have to take lessons, I'm going to have to. And so I've been a total geek about learning my whole life. And I just took a lesson last Saturday. And I love that you say that, because I think it's so important for people, as you said, not even young drummers, but anybody that wants to play the instrument. You always got to be working on yourself, And I also agree, there's nothing more important than experience, right?
Talking about Freddie Gruber was at the NAMM show outside of the Hilton one year, and I helped him walk across the street. It was really cool, man. It was cool.
Good old Freddie. Good old
That's
Freddie.
cool.
Yeah. So let's jump into this. We're getting close to the top of the hour. We can go over a little bit here real quick.
Okay.
Buckcherry, what's on it? Because we talked about 40 Cycle Hum. You've been at Buckcherry for what year did you get into the band, and what's on the horizon for that?
It's since 2019
Okay.
is when we officially, it was 2018, but we started playing our first shows 2019. I've done the last 3 records. We're getting ready to do another one at the end of this year. When we stopped touring, and so it's just been, it's just been solid, keeping me playing. We do probably over 150 shows a year, at least, sometimes more, and we're consistently putting out music, and and that's one of the things, even circling back to getting back into playing. When I was teching, there was opportunities for me to play with certain people, but the thing is, I would look at their schedule, and they were name players, and I would look at their schedule, and sometimes they were like weekend warrior stuff, or they would have 2 weeks here and then nothing on the books after that. And it was, that's when it was hard for me to accept those gigs, because I'm like, I'm working all the time,
Right.
and I could work even more than that if I could figure out how to clone myself, yeah, and because the work was there, and so it was hard for me to leave a good situation and touring and being around great players, and the whole scene to go do this. And then what? And then 2 weeks later, I'm back hustling or out of a gig, or that sort of thing too. So when Buckcherry called me, I knew the work ethic was very strong, and so that was a blessing, that I was like, okay, here's a band that I actually really do, you know, love, and they work. So that makes sense. So now
Right.
that allows me to go back to the playing side, and it's been great, and we do work. We just, like I said, we just finished a 5-week tour. We've already been to the UK this year, and we have two more 5-week legs coming up, almost back to back. And then we are doing the Scorpions residency, which, strange, oddly enough, full circle there.
Right. Right.
Um, we did it last year, and it was amazing, and it went so well that we're doing it. Whoop, speaking of cats, um, we're just had a fell off the window. Anyway, we it went so great that we're doing it again this year. So it's Las Vegas at Planet Hollywood, and I think it's 8 shows that we're doing, because they don't play 2 nights in a row. They play in and have a break, and then play in and have a break. They're in their 70s, god bless them. It's they're still going strong, and they're still great. It's still an event, and not everybody's in their 70s. Mickey's a little bit younger, and Pavel,
Right.
the bass player. um but we so we're gonna do that at the end of the year, and then we'll finish that. That's late September into the early part of October, and then after that we'll go record the next record again.
Nice. Is
Yeah.
there any favorite songs of yours with Buckcherry? Do you have any standout tunes that you look forward to playing to, maybe more than the others?
Yeah, I've answered this question before. That there's songs that I love for different reasons. There's songs that I love just because it's a great song.
Hmm.
It may not be the challenging at all on drums, but it's just a great song. So I really love playing those songs. Um, there's a few ballads that we have like that. That even playing "Sorry" is always great.
Mhm.
That's
That's
one
a
of
great song. That's a good
that's
song.
I think that's the band's highest charting song of all time.
Oh,
So
really? Really?
yeah, so not only is it a great song, it's I enjoy playing it. It's a different dynamic. Like I said, I get to uh, play a little more dynamically, ghost notes, but the crowd reaction to that song is amazing. And they
Nice.
do the whole, lighting up their cell phones, and the one or two people that still own a lighter, might do that. Yeah.
That guy with the
Uh,
Bic.
yeah. The guy with the Bic. So there's those songs, and then there's other songs that on the new record, that I really enjoy, because it has double bass in the
There you
songs,
go.
and there really historically wasn't a whole lot of double bass in any of the Buckcherry songs, and this time around, Marty, our producer, Marty Fredrickson, he he kind of was encouraging, um, what if you play double bass there? And I was like, all right, let's do it. And it's a little more on the Motorhead kind of, you know, uh, Motorhead feel kind of vibe and stuff like that too. So
Nice.
that's always really fun, and the crowd always reacts great to that. Any songs that have some really cool moments that I can, you know, um, do little intricate fills or something like that. I look forward to. But
Right on.
overall, the thing with Buckcherry is Josh changes the set list every night. So we never
Every
played
night, every night
yeah,
it's different, right?
yeah, every night's different. I mean, we have to have our certain songs that have to be in the set, and those are always in there, and they're always basically in the same place. But there's a handful of songs that always get swapped out for any song that he just happens to feel like playing that day.
That
Out of
keeps
the
you on your toes.
yeah, it's great. It's I think it's fun. It keeps things fresh. And so every day when we go up to sound check, we're like, okay, any surprises? And we were like, oh wow, okay, yeah, shoot, we haven't played that one for a really long time. So then we'll just run through it at sound check and off to the races. But
Cool.
I enjoy all of them. I enjoy all of them. And Josh builds the set to where it has a really good flow already. He's already figured that part out. So um, it's a journey, and the show is always very energetic. And the thing that I love about this band too is that nobody's going through the motions. And
Yeah, you're
um,
not phoning it in.
no, I never
Right.
want to. I never want to feel like that.
Right. Yeah.
It's that's when you're touring, that hour and a half that we get to spend on stage is the thing that I look forward to all day long. So
Right. Yeah.
when I get there, if I'm in the mindset of wanting to phone it in, that's a real drag, because then what do you got to look forward to? What's your best part of your day? It's like, why are you doing this? There's so many questions. It's like, I don't want to ever be like that. I want to be excited. I want to be, that's my time. I look forward to that time.
Right.
You know,
Well, we've talked about this on the show a lot, where the hour and a half that the audience sees, that's the end result of a lot of hard work. And I'm
yeah,
not talking about the
yeah,
work that it takes to get there to play at that level. I'm talking about that day, just getting all that stuff up on the stage, getting it plugged
oh
in, get
yeah,
everything set up, get everything working, make sure all the in-ear monitors are
mm-hmm,
everything's just right.
mm-hmm,
And then you go up there and play. And
mm-hmm.
been in those situations where there's a person on the stage just kind of, punching the time clock. Okay, I'll go do my job. And you don't want to play like that. You want
That
to,
drives me nuts.
yeah,
And it even drives me nuts even more when that person is making a ton of money.
right. No
And you're
kidding.
like, man, come on, at least try a little bit.
Right,
It's
right.
like
Well, I
you
want to remind everybody, if you want to keep up with Francis and Buckcherry, get all the tour dates and information, go to buckcherry.com and you'll have all the information you need to catch up with the band.
Yep,
There you go.
absolutely.
Well,
And or my Instagram.
What's your Instagram handle?
It is Francis Ruiz Drums.
Francis Ruiz Drums. We're going to put a link
Yep.
in there.
Yeah. Yep.
very
And
cool.
Awesome.
it's the same on Facebook, and 40 Cycle Hum is also on Facebook and Instagram too, so you can follow that as well and get all of it.
Cool.
Nice.
Anything, you know what? Is there anything else you want to plug real quick before we go here, Francis? You got anything else like, special vegetarian cat food you're coming out for with your cats or anything like that?
No, that would be cool though. No, I just want I want to say thanks to all my drum companies and that are giving me support. Yamaha drums, Paiste cymbals, Evans drum heads, Promark drumsticks, JH audio in-ears, Humes and Berg cases, which make the best cases. If not using those, I have one here that they came out with new inside linings that are pretty awesome. You got to see this. Sorry, I got to plug them.
Yeah, let's see it.
Oh, yeah. I'm with Humes and Berg too.
Oh,
That's amazing.
nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
And that's just one of many that they're coming up with now too. But they really take care of me. Kelly Shoe, which we gave a major plug to at the beginning.
Kathleen and Jeff deserve it, man. They
but very
are
well, no, yeah, very deserved. I wouldn't be talking about anything that I didn't actually truly believe in. That's the great thing is as a drummer, when you get to actually play everything that you want,
Right.
and you get to the point where you could, I'm playing all my favorite stuff, so
That's cool.
there's no nothing I would do different. So, but that everybody check out 40 Cycle Hum. Everybody keep coming to the Buckcherry shows. We love it. There's a lot of touring that we have left. We're doing a lot of the festivals. We've done already a few of the festivals. Some of the Danny Wimmer festivals. We did Sonic Temple, and we did Welcome to Rockville. But we have Rocklahoma coming up, and
Nice.
we have some shows with Creed, and we have the tour with Blackstone Cherry later in August. Of course, the Scorpions. Go out and get those Scorpions tickets because you need to see them while they're still playing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. When's the Scorpions residency? What month is that?
That is the end of September. I think like September 16th through August 3rd.
Bart, you and me in the Corvette. Let's go.
Let's go. Actually, I was asking because it's just a one-nighter, but we're playing one of the station casinos out there. But it's in October. And so I was like, if I could make that work, I'm there.
Yeah. Well, you guys are what, in LA or California?
Yeah. I live in Ontario.
Okay.
I'm in Tucson, Arizona.
Oh, all right.
Yeah. Where do you live?
Pretty close. I am in Texas. I live in New Braunfels. It's between Austin and San Antonio.
Oh, we play Fredericksburg a lot.
Fredericksburg's great. I love Fredericksburg.
There's a place out there called the Rock Box Theater, and the people that own it, well, she no longer owns it. She sold up, but they own like a whole string of stuff down there on that main street where the restaurant is and everything like that.
Sure. So, yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Right on, man. Well, thank you so much for being on the show, Francis.
Francis,
awesome.
This has been an awesome interview. Thank you, Kathleen and Jeff Kelly and everybody who watched. But Kathleen and Jeff, you guys are the best. You got a big plug today. Jeff's been on the show too. So anyway, you guys, everybody have a great day. We'll see you next week. Next week's show is not, it hasn't been announced yet, but the following week, I'm going to go ahead and announce it in 2 weeks from now. We've got Bobby Rondinelli coming on, one of my favorite drummers.
Awesome.
Yeah. So Bobby's going to be awesome. Oh man, fantastic. Yeah. So looking forward to a conversation with him. That's going to be a lot of fun. You guys have a great day. Go practice, work on your Radamacue paradiddles and flams. And we'll see you on the other side of this thing. Take it easy, everybody.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, this is awesome. Thank you.